welcome back. I trust you all had a brilliant Christmas. I hope you all had a brilliant Christmas. Mine was certainly alcoholic. I don't want to start off the year in a traditional royalist rant, royal family rant. It's that time of year again, New Year's, when we start seeing who's being nominated for the honours list this year, who's nominated to get awards from the Queen for services to to Britain, to the Empire. And I've flicked through the list once or twice of people that are nominated. As ever, this year is no different. It infuriates me. One of the people who's been nominated is being nominated for dressing the fucking Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton. That is not something you should get an award for. And as usual, it's full of the actors and musicians and this and that and the other, and people with services to music, services to drama, services to blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm sure most of these people are brilliant in their respective fields. I'm sure many of them are worthy of Oscars, of Grammys, whatever awards it is in their respective fields. Are they worthy of gaining an honour from the Queen, which is meant to be symbolic of services to the entire country? Services that put the entire country in a better place? Short answer, no. And yeah, it's just filled with people who I'm sure most of them are brilliant in their fields, be it music, drama, whatever it is. But I'll tell you some of the people that I would like to see nominated in this New Year's Honours pantomime that we go through every year. Let's see. Everybody who volunteers at a food bank should be shortlisted to be on the honours list. All those nurses throughout the year that have been punched, kicked, bitten, slapped, abused, sworn at, spat at, had to go through tests to make sure they didn't catch anything after a violent patient has spat in them. All those nurses and doctors and GPs and A&E workers who face all the abuse all year round, when we go out and act like drunken dickheads and we end up in A&E abusing people and being violent, everyone who deals with us in that situation deserves to be shortlisted for a Grammy, or for an honour. All the firefighters who run into buildings and pull children out and pull animals out and pull people's beloved pets and relatives out of burning buildings should be shortlisted for an honours award. All the police who walk our streets every day, just for walking our streets, some of our most dangerous streets every single day, just making sure everything's okay, they should be shortlisted for awards from the Queen, excuse me. All the armed police who respond to terror threats every year, because it seems every year there is at least one terror attack, should be shortlisted. Actually, you know what's quite interesting? The Westminster Bridge terror attack a couple of years ago. I don't recall seeing the officer who was fighting I know he killed an officer, the attacker. I don't recall seeing even the officer who died. I don't recall seeing his name on the list posthumously, or the name of the officer who fought several terrorists. I don't think it was London Bridge now, thinking about it. I think it was another attack. But I don't recall ever seeing any policeman who fought a terrorist, shortlisted to go on the honours list. And it seems every year we have this list of celebrities and socialites shortlisted to receive an honour from our monarch, who really don't deserve that sort of monarchy. In fact, at this point, I want to give a shout out to all the people throughout the years who have been offered an honour, or an MBE, or an OBE, or a knighthood, or whatever other bollocks it is, and have turned it down. Namely, C.S. Lewis, David Bowie, people like John Lennon, who actually returned his, people like George Harrison, people like, as I said, David Bowie. There's loads of people that have actually returned them. Benjamin Zephaniah, who actually issued a strongly worded statement when he refused his honour in 2003, in which he said, up yours, Tony Blair, up yours, Mrs. Queen, my ancestors would be rolling in their graves thinking I would accept and honour from an empire that subjugated, raped and slaughtered and mindlessly killed my people. So shout out to everybody who's been offered an MBE, OBE, knighthood, gong, whatever it is, and refused it. Because a knighthood, an award from the Queen, is an award regardless of what I think of the monarchy. We all know what I think of the monarchy. But the Queen is supposed to work for the state. So an award from the Queen or an award from the reigning monarch is, in theoretically, an award from Britain. An award from the state saying thank you for doing something that has benefited Great Britain. Something that has brought us up to somewhere better than where we are now. Somewhere higher than where we are now. So an award from the Queen / government / state / Britain should not be for being an actor or a musician or an author or just being famous for being famous, for being a fashion designer. It should be for being a firefighter who works 50 hours a week, who runs into burning buildings, for being a food bank volunteer, for being a good person, being someone who actually benefits society. And obviously I'm not saying that arts and music and drama and things like that don't benefit society. Of course they do. They benefit our intellects. They make us think. They make us more intellectual, more aware, more sophisticated and more articulate. But they don't benefit societies in the same basic level that paramedics do, A&E workers, people who work at a food bank. As I keep saying, I can't stress those people enough because they do it for free. Firefighters, police, people who answer 999 calls and have to stay calm no matter what's going on. They have to stay absolutely calm and respond accordingly. These are the people that deserve awards, not some fucking actor, author, bookmaker or whatever, fashion designer, musician. As much as I love books, I love music, I love films, I love all three of those, but I would never ever expect any artist or author or actor that I enjoy watching to be nominated for an award from the Queen. Because why? It's not something that you do to benefit society or to benefit a country. It's something that you do because that's your profession. That's what you want to do. It's not something that at a base level, at its very core, benefits somebody else. So that's that rant dealt with. I also want to address today the Home Secretary cut short his Christmas holiday, cut it short to come and deal with the migrant crisis. We're having another migrant crisis. It's going to be smeared all over the papers in the next 9 days or so, or 7 days, or however long it takes them to bleed it dry. Now, it's interesting because people were calling for that, for all MPs to come back early from Christmas break because of the Brexit fiasco. So that isn't worth coming back early from your Christmas break. The rise in homelessness, the rise in rough sleeping, the fact that a lot of children were in poverty on Christmas Day, that wasn't enough for MPs to say, let's come back early. Because they all agreed to go and come back on the pre-planned dates. But Sajid Javid has had to come back early because of some brown people in a boat. And that's a crisis, apparently. Never mind all the shit that the Tories have caused over the last 8 years. In work poverty, all-time high. They reckon by 2020, 18% of all children will live in absolute poverty in the UK. But that's not worth cutting short your Christmas holiday. In fact, he was in South Africa. Cutting that short, that's not worth it. What's worth cutting short your Christmas holiday to come back and deal with it? It's such an emergency. It's some brown people coming over and threatening our British values. And as usual, the gammon army is out in full force again. They're coming to take our jobs. They're coming to take our benefits. They're coming for this. They're coming for that. They're coming for social housing. No, they're not. They just want a life. How fucking arrogant do you have to be to think that a refugee, someone from Iran, or yeah, I think they are primarily from Iran this time around, would risk life and limb, pack up their bags in the middle of the night, grab their children, grab their wives and their families, and they would flee a country, dodging militias and armies all the way, dodging landmines, cut through a barbed wire fence to crawl through, and then get on a raft that's about this wide with your whole family, go over a sea overnight with the risk of turning upside down and drowning in the sea, and then get across the sea, and then you've got to dodge border controls, and then you've got to cling onto the underside of a lorry, and you want to do all of that just to take someone's job. How fucking arrogant do you have to be to think that that's what these people are doing? They are fleeing something which Britain and America and France and Germany and every government in the West is guilty of proliferating. That's the word. Guilty of causing, guilty of advancing. So what we need to do, if we're to have any leg to stand on when it comes to complaining about migrants, we need to stop funding and arming every motherfucker in the Middle East. Because what always happens is we always, and I promise you, we fund and arm people in the Middle East, 20 years down the line, situation changes. Because the situation in the Middle East is changing so fucking often. Situation changes. All of a sudden, those people that we armed are our enemies. Look at the 80s. We funded, not Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden and the Mujahideen. The West funded them because they were out in Afghanistan fighting the Russians. And we didn't like the Russians because the Russians were communists. And then we armed them, funded them. Bin Laden was a CIA operative. We supported him, give him everything he wanted. We knew full well the guy was an Islamist prick. Yet we gave him everything he wanted. What happened? Communism fell. Russia stopped being the USSR, just became Russia. And all of a sudden, Afghanistan wasn't Russia's enemy anymore. The Islamists weren't Russia's enemy anymore because Russia wasn't involved in that anymore in the same level that it was. Who did he turn to? The West. The Western infidels that despise Islam and that go against everything Islamic theocracy stands for. And then he turned his money that he took from us and his weapons that he bought from us onto us. Look at what happens in Syria. We funded Syrian rebels. What are they now? 4 letters. ISIS. Stop arming and funding every bastard in the Middle East, because that is why people are coming out of the Middle East. Because it's such a fucking shit show out there that they're coming away from there to where the bombs are coming from, which is us. Of course they are. We're not going to bomb ourselves. At least not, not deliberately. Of course they're coming to our country. We're the one country, or the West is the one area that's not being flattened by its own bombs. Of course they're fucking coming this way. We're giving them all the guns and the arms and the money. They love us in the Middle East right now. For the next 5 minutes at least. So all the people who are affected. So when we sell the Saudis a fuck ton of Typhoon fighter jets, 48 was the magic number recently, which the Queen has stocks in, by the way. There's a tie into the last rent. When we give them all them, and then they go and they flatten Yemen, of course all the countries scattered around Yemen are going to go, oh, fucking hell, and they're going to get out of there. And of course you can stand there and you can say, oh, why are they all men? Why aren't they going back and fighting for their countries? Listen, if what happened in Syria happened in England or happened in Britain, I take no shame in saying you could see me for miles around, burning rubber all the fucking way out of this country. I promise you that. I have no shame in that. I have a family, I have a wife and a kid. Why the fuck am I going to die fighting some government's war? Fuck no. And that's probably the exact same attitude these people are having. I'm just a family man. I'm just a mechanic who works down the road. Or I'm just a bin man. Why am I going to die fighting their war? Not my business. I'm leaving. See you later. And then of course they get here after clinging to the underside of that lorry and sleeping on that raft overseas. And then fucking some cunt who lives in Britain who does nothing with his life besides drink Stella and watch Jeremy Kyle and complain about people, complain about immigrants taking his job, he reckons they're all coming over to take his benefits. Get a hold of yourself. That felt good. It's been over a week since I had a good old rant like that. So thanks for watching. More to come in the new year. I'll see you next time.